Hello, welcome to the Beard Out Podcast. Podcast where we talk about the two greatest things in the world, beer and Weird Al Yankovic. My Aunt Lala and my dad are the hosts of the show. Thanks for listening to the Beard Out Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Stay weird and enjoy the show.
It's the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
That's true.
Recorded from Detroit, Michigan.
That's not true.
And Jacksonville, Florida.
Yep.
The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for Jammy Jams,
beer,
album reviews,
Weird
and
Al.
the best in-depth music discussion.
Maybe.
Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
Hello, my name is Russ, and you are listening to an episode of the Infectious Groove Podcast. My lovely wife, Lauren, who hosts the Beard Al Podcast, asked me to come over to her show and host a version of the Infectious Groove Podcast. So if you are tuning into the Beard Al Podcast and wondering just what in the heck fire is going on, that is what is going on.
That is what is going on.
That is what's going on. And what's going to happen is basically we're going to run this episode as if it were an episode of the Infectious Groove Podcast. So you're going to hear some of our segments that we do on our show over there. And how our show works is we start out with feedback from listeners of, the show in general or different topics that we've discussed recently. Then we go through a segment which we call our Jammy Jams, where we sometimes explain to each other like who it is we've been listening to and why. Certain artists maybe that myself and my two co-hosts haven't heard, or that other people haven't heard of. And we tell you a little bit about why we're listening to those songs and why they've been stuck in our head. Then we take a quick break, and in the second half we do any number of different things. And this week what we're going to do is a version of the album reviews that we do. So when we get in the second half, I will explain a little bit of how we do that. The Infectious Group Podcast has been on the air, so to speak, for about coming up on 3.5 years. And we've put out around 160 or so episodes. And between that and our YouTube channel, Infectious Groove Music, which Lauren contributes to on a regular basis. So if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, you should definitely do that. But we have a whole bunch of episodes in our back catalog that you can go check out, because there used to be a new episode of the Infectious Group Podcast every Monday. But as of a couple of days after this episode of the Beard Al / Infectious Group Podcast comes out, there will be our final audio episode. But that is not to say you shouldn't give a subscription, because there's going to be tons of back episodes for you to check out where we cover tons of different types of music. So if you like Weird Al and you like all the different types of music that he covers, then in his music, then you're definitely going to want to check out what we were doing on our show over there. So having said that, Lauren said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if before your show goes away, you come over and we'll do a parody of sorts of your show on mine. So let's get into that. We always start our show off with feedback. So here we go.
Feedback, John.
Don't worry about that. Right. Rock and roll me without feedback.
Got some feedback from people on Twitter and across the internet recently regarding the Beard Al Podcast. And we had a couple of very, very sweet things and a couple of people who kind of knew that this was going to be a jokey situation. But we have a couple of quotes here to share with some people. The Deep Purple Podcast writes in and says, the show combines two of my favorite things, beer and Weird Al. What's not to like? Also, as a father of siblings, I hope my kids grow up to be as close as you are, which I think is really cool.
I do too. I mean, that probably means more to me than anything. And I realize that this is kind of supposed to be a joke, but that like really touched my heart, because I'm very thankful for my relationship with my brother.
Zero disrespect to the Deep Purple Podcast, but it's kind of like you misunderstood the assignment. You know what I mean? Like, thanks for going all touching. Now everyone else is going to sound like a jerk. You make yourself look like a jerk in front of millions of people. A friend Justin Cooper writes in and says, the greatest Weird Al podcast that ever was or ever will be.
I know.
It's the sheer weight of it all.
I know, it's true. I mean, there's several, and I'm glad to be one of them.
A friend of both Infectious Group podcast and the Beard Owl podcast, Aaron, from his own show, I had to say it, writes in and says, I would have to say it's become a very anticipated part of my Friday commute in the morning. Really helps me start off my day on the right foot, which is great.
I love bringing positivity to people in the morning, especially in the morning.
For sure. Our pal Noah writes in and says, come for the in-depth analysis and stay for the funny anecdotes. Me personally, I'm going to tack onto that. Stay for the farts.
Stay for all of the farts. And I love that he wrote it owl analysis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime.
Analysis.
Yeah. You have to do things along those lines.
Yes.
Our friends at the BFYTW says our podcast say all three of the BFYTW guys love it. Also, your show is like a gift from the Weird Al gods. Furthermore, Smoke, who is one of the three guys from the BFYTW podcast, said, I truly do love the show. I was surprised to find out that someone specialized in Weird Al, let alone two of you. Each episode revives my love of his songs. Don't ever stop. Keep Weird much love.
I love that we revive his love for Weird Al every time he listens to us.
I've told you this before, like on your show and on my show and in real life. Weird Al is one of those artists that I don't want to say I get angry. I don't get angry anymore, but I used to get angry when people are like, oh yeah, I remember him. And I'm like, no, why would you forget?
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's so important.
Now I know that Smoke is not one of those people who quote forgot Weird Al, but not everyone sits around literally like you and I do and celebrate like his entire catalog all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So I do love when people are like, oh no, I forgot that one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's how Smoke is. Dayton, another one of our friends from over at the Docking Bay podcast, says, I never enjoyed listening to people get sidetracked this much. John and Lauren have so much fun chemistry. I'm learning a lot about Weird Al and loving it. Keep it up. Garrett, another friend of ours from the Ever Trending Story podcast, says, I love the whole thing. The fun theme song sets the mood. The hosts are authentic and awesome. A genuine relationship and good laughs fill each episode, as well as great topics and great drink discussions. Couldn't ask for a better show. The last two kind of left it out, but like really farts though.
Really farts though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is it just people just don't want to say it? It's like, is it too obvious?
I think that John and I are probably the only two people in the world that are like really willing to just like let go of all of the taboo and just like own up to it.
Fair enough.
People love what we do, but you know, everybody loves to smell their own brew.
Right, exactly. The There Will Be Books podcast writes in and says, you have your market pretty well sewn up. Now, they're definitely talking about the farts.
I think they must be.
Yep. Our friends on the Odd Pods Media Network over there at Grab 'em in the Brisket says, great show. Nothing better than listening to someone talk about something they're really passionate about, which I totally agree with.
Huzzah.
I don't even know who this is, but there's a person named Russ that wrote in that just said, I rather enjoy the show.
I don't know who that is,
That's
but
weird.
He sounds like a nice guy that I might want to marry.
Another dude who misunderstood the assignment, I guess.
Uh-huh.
We have this is weird because your regular co-host is John, right? Your brother John?
Yes.
Okay, well, somebody with the same name wrote in, which makes this a little awkward. But he writes in and says, I wish Lauren would get sidetracked more. Oh, that's good. So it's not John focused.
Right.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
He goes on to say it seems like the side talent is doing most of the sidetracking. John is great.
John
I think
great.
We should look into that and see. There's a chance that is John, your co-host, that wrote that.
That very well might be. I need to vet this feedback a little bit more, I think.
Yeah,
this is why we don't,
I would say this is not my fault.
Right.
From the Infectious Group. Like if you were to listen to the Infectious Group podcast, you would hear well-vetted feedback.
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't just let something like that
slip through the cracks, yeah.
Tell you what, if you do want to leave feedback for anybody on the Beard Owl podcast, or let's say you just want to find John's home and take him a package of, say, flaming poop and leave on his doorstep.
Flaming poop, yes.
You can do that. All you got to do is make sure if you're following Beard Owl podcast on any sort of social media, drop them a comment. One of the reasons we started the feedback over the Infectious Group podcast is not to get praise or anything going, but literally, if you know a content creator in your life, literally every single like, comment, share, all those things that are super, super free and super, super easy to do, help encourage the content creators that you know. So if this is all seriousness, this is Russ just asking you, if you have ever enjoyed anything that Lauren and John are doing here on the Beard Owl podcast, going forward, please make sure that you interact with them on social media. If you just like their posts on Facebook, if you drop a comment, if you share their episodes, if you interact with them on Twitter, I assure you, you're going to put a smile on their face, just like Weird Al has done for you for many, many, many years, except you will be putting way less effort into it than Weird Al has done.
That's true.
For you over the years. Next, we're going to move on to another segment we use on the Infectious Group podcast, and we call that Our Jammies. So as I was saying, over on the Infectious Group podcast, because there's 3 of us and we have wildly different tastes a lot of times, and we're all 3 different ages too. I'm the oldest of the 3. And a lot of times I will say to someone on the show, like, oh, hey, I was listening to the new album by, somebody that might seem normal to everybody else. Like I might say, oh, I was listening to the latest effort from Santana, and somebody younger on my show might be like, oh, well, I don't know who that is. Right. So then I got to explain, or they might say to me, I was listening to, and this is serious. I was listening to Lil or Young someone. And then I have to say, who is that? Right. And they have to explain it to me. So, but it's fun because we oftentimes share with each other a lot of artists that each other haven't heard of. Okay. So, we're going to do a version of that this week. Now, the guy that I'm going to talk about is a cat who's out of Linwood, California, which is like, that's almost like being like, oh, he's from Atlanta, or
right, yeah.
or he's from Seattle, or he's from Detroit, like Linwood, California, like hotbed of musical talent, right?
Right,
like,
exactly, yes.
Like, oh, is he from Nashville? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he's an accordion player. First and foremost, and his name's Al Yankovic, which I think is weird, right?
That is
like, isn't
weird.
that a weird name? You know what I mean?
That's a really weird name.
Furthermore, he does music that just the 3 songs that I'm going to share, I think have been wildly ripped off by other artists that like people have heard of. So again, I'm not trying to get on like any sort of soapbox or anything like, like, oh, I'm a hipper than you and I know the original guy. But like, we live in the age of streaming now. You don't even have to go in to a record store. Like you can at least check this guy out. You know what I mean? Like you can at least go. And I feel like fans of the artists that I'm about to mention are going to be like, holy crap, like he did it first. Right.
Yeah.
So if you ever listen to like Jim Croce style or James Taylor style, like singer songwriter stuff.
Yeah. I love that. Time in a Bottle.
Okay. So way before that, this Al Yankovic did a song called Good Old Days that like, when you hear this, you're going to be like, how the hell do I know Fire and Rain, but I don't know this song that came way before it.
Oh, right. He's an underground guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, he's from the underground of Linwood. Yes. Cause like I say, cause like Linwood is, you know what I mean? Like everyone knows all the artists that came out of Linwood, but he's like in the underground
scene. Straight out of Linwood.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, so has this song called The Good Old Days. And it's like, when you hear something like Fire and Rain and you're like, oh, how did you write something so, like that everybody can understand or everybody can relate to? It's so ripped off from The Good Old Days because like there's a line, and I don't mean to like blow your mind on your own show here, but there's a line and it talks about spending all day in the basement torturing rats with a hacksaw and pulling the wings out of the flies. It's like, who hasn't done that?
Right. I mean, that's a common experience.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like this whole like, I see fire and I see, oh, really? Like, oh, that's universal. Like, okay, talk to me about like this guy's doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's the first one. Second of all, and you know that I'm from Detroit, and there's a group out of Detroit that a lot of people give a lot of praise and say, oh, the garage renaissance came from this group. And that's the White Stripes.
Yes.
Jack and Meg White. And I'm not one to ever say like anything out of Detroit was lifted from something else. But this guy, Al Yankovic, does this song called CNR, which is obviously about Charles Nelson Riley.
Obviously.
Which I can't even think there's at least half a dozen number 1 hits that have been written about Charles Nelson Riley.
Yeah.
But when you hear this song, you're going to be like, oh, well, I guess the White Stripes aren't so original because they ripped off their entire sound from this one Al Yankovic song. It's called CNR. Or like you should check it. It literally sounds like everything they had quote, and I use quotes now, hits with after, because all they did was rip off this Al Yankovic.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the one I'm going to round it out with, and this is probably the most egregious one, is there's a guy in music that gets all this praise and has for years and has lived off of this whole, I'm a genre chameleon. Like I do push all these boundaries. There's a cat named Frank Zappa.
Oh, I've heard of Frank Zappa.
Okay. Again, just like with the White Stripes, this Al Yankovic, like I know the name is weird, but you got to remember the name Al Yankovic. He did a song called Genius in France that is literally like the blueprint for what Frank Zappa would go on to do. Like everything Zappa ever did in his career, he ripped off from this literal one Al Yankovic song. And I know you might be like, Well, I would have to be like a 15-minute song. That's because it is. Like he literally did all these genres in one song, and then this Frank Zappa cat just ripped it off and didn't care.
I am making a face right now that obviously our audio audience cannot see, but this if the noise was a face, that is what I'm doing.
And this is the artist that I would say, like, I would tell you normally, like, go out and buy, but like you don't even have to do that. Like you, as soon as this episode's over, you can look him up on streaming, and you're going to be like, how did I not know this? You know. So, so anyways, that's what I've been listening to because the three things are so wildly different from each other, and then I get mad because all these other artists ripped off their sound from him. So I just thought I'd use your show to tell people about.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great and like really important.
Yeah. So that's what I've been listening to. What have you been listening to this week?
So like I've been buying a lot of stuff online lately. So like I found a playlist on Spotify about shopping online and like buying things online.
For like Craigslist or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like I just have 3 songs about buying things online that just kind of showed up on this playlist that like I really sort of dug, you
That's
know?
rad.
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny that you mentioned Craigslist because the first song that I have in my Jammy Jams is a song called Craigslist about buying things off of
rad.
Craigslist. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's weird that I mentioned.
Yeah, that you're so like, it's like you're reading my mind.
I don't think I've ever heard, like, if you were going to describe the sound, how would you say, like, I've never heard this song or I don't even know who does it, but like, how would you say, what would you say it sounds like?
It sounds like late 60s psychedelic rock with like a lot of Hammond organ on it and then like really deep vocals in some portions.
Oh, that's
you know, trying to like make you feel like really kind of transcendental.
There used to be a keyboard player named Ray Manzarek, and I don't think he ever went anywhere, but like he did a lot of that type of work.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Does it sound like what he used to do?
It sounds a lot like that.
That's
yeah.
rad.
Yeah, it's a really cool song. And then the next one is about like an auction site on the internet. You know, it's funny. Like I listened to the song and it sounded kind of familiar, but I didn't recognize the title. But it's a song called eBay about buying things on eBay.
Huh.
And then I got to like thinking, you know, because like I'm an older millennial, so I grew up with the Backstreet Boys and stuff. And their song "I Want It That Way" sounds exactly like this song eBay. And I think we might be running into the same situation because
it's another artist that's getting ripped off.
Artist getting ripped off.
Yeah.
Because
what makes me the most mad about those boy bands too, though, is that like they got away with murder. Like those kids barely worked. You know what I mean? Like it's like known, like groups like the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, the Spice Girls especially. Like they barely lifted a finger.
Right.
You know, like they and it was their managers were the ones out working hard and you know getting all and then to find out that like somebody else already had the sound beforehand anyways doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. It's a terrible situation, really. Like nobody's really getting their due for anything.
I do like that there's a song out there about eBay because there's so much you can buy on eBay and a lot of people don't even realize.
There's so much you can buy on eBay. Like I was literally looking for a used pink bathrobe and
they have one.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yep. I found it on eBay.
You did find it on eBay.
So you have at least one more?
I have one more.
All
I have
right,
one more.
else
Yeah, and you know, this one was on the playlist, but I felt like I kind of got shoehorned in there because it wasn't really about buying things online. It was just about buying things that you don't need. Mm. And it's a track called Mr. Popeil, and it sounds a whole lot like that Rock Lobster song.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Popeil. I cannot remember. I've seen somewhat. I think I've seen something on TV about him.
Yes, I think. Yeah. It's about all the as seen on TV kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I understand why this was put on this playlist. But you know, like I just wrote the song titles down. See, now I'm gonna have to go look up who did all these because if this is that same Al Yankovic guy, then
that would be so weird.
He's gonna have a case against.
That would be really weird.
Like too many artists for like ripping him off.
Yeah, I don't like. I'm not familiar with those songs that you mentioned, but again, if like anybody listening to the show, all you got to do is go to whatever streaming you use. Even if you listen on YouTube Music, no matter where you go, just type in Al Yankovic and check out some of his stuff, and then we'll have to look up and see.
Yeah, it might be because, like I said, I was kind of mindlessly listening to this playlist about buying things online and just kind of jotted down a couple song titles and honestly wasn't paying attention to who the artist was. So if it is all Al Yankovic, then, you know, we might have... Have you seen that biopic where Michael Jackson ripped... It's the same Al Yankovic. Oh, my God.
No, that's the same.
It's the same guy.
Mm-hmm. That's the guy I'm talking about.
Right.
I don't know if that's the same dude you're talking about.
It might be. So, oh man, if all of these artists ripped him off,
yeah, that would be, I mean, historic. Yeah. It's got to be more than even the recent artists' families who keep suing all the people. It's got to be, he's got to have a mega case like that.
Yeah, those cases are going to be even worse than the other ones.
Oh, good one. Those were our Jammy Jams. Now we are going to take a quick break because we are following the format from the Infectious Groove podcast. So now we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to run through our album review. As soon as we get back from the break, I will tell you exactly how that breaks down because we do it a little bit different than most people do album reviews, and we have a little bit more fun with it. We're going to look at Weird Al Yankovic's Medium Rarities album. You are listening to the Infectious Groove podcast, kind of, and the Beard Al podcast on the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hi, I'm Dayton, the host of the Docking Bay 77 podcast. We talk about everything from Anthrax to the Muppets to West Side Story.
All right, boys, buckle up because we have hit the bottom of the barrel.
He slaughters all the Tusken Raiders. The fact that she stays by his side, that tells me everything I need to know about these women that write letters to serial killers in prison. You know, it made sense. You know,
mopey, young, sad, always dumped Tim. That was the theme song. You know.
When you listened, Tim, did you have the volume on? Or?
The witches are definitely much more nightmare fuel, but the fact that they look like the Texas Chainsaw centerfolds.
If Jango Fett is so awesome and he's hired to be cloned, why the hell isn't he doing the job? He's like, my client's getting impatient. Well, what, you slack ass mother? Why don't you do it? You know, you're just. Check us out on Apple Podcast, Good Pods, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Richie, aka Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, aka Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
We are back. It is Russ from the Infectious Groove podcast, along with Lauren from the Beard Al podcast.
Hello.
And instead of having Lauren over on the Infectious Groove podcast this time, we brought the whole damn Infectious Groove podcast over to the Beard Al podcast.
It's a mess over here. There's so much stuff.
Yeah, there's just boxes everywhere. So in the first half, we covered feedback, and we did a little parody version of our Jammy Jam segment. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the little bitty parody version of our own segment that we did. And in the second half of our show, what we usually do is take the whole second half and discuss one topic. And how we do album reviews is we generally will open up by telling the audience a little bit about the album we're going to review. We have the person who picked the album tell us why it is that we are going to review that album, which would be me in this case. Then we go through kind of a round robin deal, and we ask each person to talk about their favorite tracks on the record. We really try to keep our program very positive. We don't ever talk about things like this is a bad song or anything. So we even jokingly say if there's any stinkers on an album. So if there's any songs that we don't like, we just call them stinkers. Then we have an open discussion on the record for like anything that may be outside of the best songs or the worst songs or anything to do with videos or album art or sales or anything along those lines. Then we get down to asking some very important questions. Would you buy this album? Would you recommend this album? And then we always round out our reviews with our rating on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, 1 being the absolute worst an album can be. And that is how we do the segment. So having said that, this week we are going to review Weird Al Yankovic Medium Rarities, which was released exclusively in the Squeeze box set in 2017. It is comprised entirely of rare and unreleased tracks from Weird Al's career. Squeeze box won the Grammy for the 2019 Grammy for Best Box Set or Special Limited Edition Package. Al was one of the box set's art directors himself, and he won the Grammy Award alongside Megan Foley and Annie Stoll. So that's a little bit around it, because a lot of times what's funny is we've never done a compilation of greatest hits or like a rarities or anything in an album review on our show. So usually I have all the stuff about like, and it charted here and it had these hits and these singles. So this is kind of a different deal. But why this album was chosen for review. Number one, because of the format switch. Like if we're going to come over to bring the Infectious Groove podcast over to the Beard Al podcast, then we're going to review a Weird Al album. Two, because of that, over on Infectious Groove, we've never done a review of like a hits package or a live album or even rarities for any artist. So it was like, well, let's just do that over on the Beard Al.
Throw your garbage at me.
Right.
No.
Yeah. So we always start out asking for your best tracks on the record. And now what's funny with rarities is everybody's going to have their own stuff that they love, right? And to me, as a longtime Weird Al fan, there's stuff on here that I don't view as rare, but I still love it though.
Yeah.
So because it's on here, I'm still counting it.
Sure.
Okay.
That's why they're medium rarities.
Yeah, right. First thing up front, I would say, is headline news, which that's why I qualified my whole. It's not rare, because I mean, like I owned Permanent Record. You know, like you could get this track easily before Medium Rarities, but it's so underrated.
Oh my God, it absolutely is. I'm gonna jump protocol a little bit here and say that is also on my list of my favorites on this particular album. For many of the same reasons that you cite. You know, it was on
so good.
Permanent Record / Al in the Box because they couldn't agree on a title.
Right. I know.
It's delightful.
Another one, and you can elaborate more on that when we get to your list, when we get to headline news, or when we get to your best tracks on the record, rather elaborate more on headline news. Pac-Man was the one for me. Like I was going to buy the Squeeze box set anyways, like the Medium Rarities was just like, oh, and that's there too, as far as, I was concerned. Pac-Man was the one that I was like, okay, well, even if I don't like anything else on that, that's what I want. Because I'm a huge later Beatles guy, and I'm a huge George Harrison guy. George wrote Taxman, later Beatles, boom, I need to have this from Weird Al, right? And it's every bit as good as I wanted it to be. And my absolute favorite part in it is when he uses the intermission music from Miss Pac-Man as the guitar solo in Taxman. It's my favorite thing, probably on this whole record. I absolutely love it. Another thing that I love is the karaoke version of Since You've Been Gone, just because first of all, the lead vocal on Since You've Been Gone is great, but to hear like everything that was done to the background vocals on that song is really cool.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Really cool. And then the other thing that I love on this, and again, this doesn't mean everything else is bad. It's just the things that I love the most on it. I like the Yoda demo just because to me, you can hear a huge difference between that being laid down as a demo and what ended up on Even Worse. And you and I have discussed this personally before, that I have nothing against the first record, but I really like when his production got closer to the original songs. So I liked hearing the difference between how Yoda would have sounded and how it did when a couple records later when his production got better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I agree with you, which is probably why the Yoda demo was not on my list of favorites on this particular album, because it's just like, it's Yoda.
No, right. Exactly.
I like it and I love it. But I really love your reason for having it on as one of your favorites. But yeah.
So going over the best tracks, we know we agreed on the one.
We agreed on headline news.
So if you want to elaborate a little bit on that, and then of course I know you have others.
I mean, I just think headline news is so funny. Like I love how it's like vignettes of different news stories that were big at the time.
So absurd that year that it was easy to make.
Yeah, I mean, but the fact that like these are the absurd things that got big. He couldn't even do a song like this now because like you get a new absurd news story every 10 minutes
in one day.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So I love that there were these like singular absurd things that happened to all be absurd like around the same time that worked for that. And then I also agree with you on Pac-Man because
so good.
That sold me. If I could have bought this on the legs of Pac-Man, I would have, but I couldn't at the time. And so hence I married you and got this box set so I could have Pac-Man.
That's a good reason to marry me.
Yes.
Yep.
It's not the reason I married you. Please, people, don't think that this is the reason I married him. It's not. But then I have a couple others. I have the extra gory version of The Night Santa Went Crazy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because I have like the first time I heard the extra gory version of The Night Santa Went Crazy was live in concert, and I very much had a what moment because I was singing along, and then he was singing words I didn't know, and I'm like 13 years old, and I'm like, what is happening, Weird Al? What is happening?
Yeah.
And it was a very unusual moment for me.
What's funny is for me that particular song is and I'm certain your audience is going to correct me on this, or not correct me, but no, when I don't off the top of my head. The first time I ever even heard of that was a bonus track on a CD single, and maybe Amish Paradise, I don't know. I remember that the first time I ever saw the words Night Santa Went Crazy extra gory version was on a CD single for something else, and I didn't buy it at the time. That was back in the 90s when like import CD singles were like $25, and I was like, I'm not, so. Years later, when Squeezebox came out and that was on there, I was like, oh, I get to hear that version of that song now.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, like, so that was the first time I heard it was when I finally got that
Oh, that's cool.
LP. Yeah, but I knew of it years before, but never heard it.
That's very cool.
Yeah. What else do you got for songs that you love?
I have Spy Hard because, come on, how can you not? I also love how this album is broken up because it obviously goes in chronological order, and I kind of love that Spy Hard opens side 2.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is great, and then it just it starts going into stuff that I don't know super well, not too far after that. But that's fun for me to have Weird Al songs that I'm like, oh no, I'm aware of and I know, but also aren't like built into my DNA.
No, yep.
And I have two more. One is just Lousy Haircut. Because that was part of the Weird Al show, and it was kind of part of our lives growing up. It's like, I'm so angry at my idiotic barber. And like we would just kind of do that to each other all the time, anytime we get a haircut. And then the 30 Rock theme parody is one for me because I love 30 Rock. And then when Weird Al showed up on 30 Rock and did his weird little parody of the theme song, I was like, oh, this is funny. And that episode has the whole phrase, he normal Al'd me, is just, so it's got all of that going for it. There's nothing brilliant about the 30 Rock theme parody other than
there's reasons why you like it. Yeah.
Other than the fact that he's putting words to a theme song that doesn't have words, which is also a thing that I do.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. As far as stinkers go, now usually how we define stinkers on our show is it doesn't even have to be a bad song per se. It's just something you could do without on the record, or maybe if you're listening to it on CD or whatever, you'd be like, reach for that old track forward button. With this, what's interesting about this, and again, not to labor the point too much, but we never really did an episode like this on Infectious Groove where we did like a compilations or rarities stuff. Like even we're huge Prince fans, we're huge MJ fans, and there's like stuff out there where like there's like 3 to 4 different rarities albums from Prince, right? And one thing I always notice with even as an artist as brilliant as Prince is, or as brilliant as Weird Al is sometimes when you hear rarities collections or compilations of any sort, you think, that was left off of something else for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing really on here that I would skip and go, oh, well, that was left off for a reason. Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have any stinkers on it, but I think that this would like very much vary on a case by case basis.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, I feel like there's plenty of Weird Al fans who would be like, even Headline News people would be like, why is that even on there? I already own it on Out of the Box. Mm-hmm. Right. So did you have any stinkers? Because I didn't really.
I do. I have 2.
Okay.
I do. I have Beat on the Brat.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm not a Ramones fan, so
I'm just like I even own it's hanging on the wall.
Yeah,
I have the single.
Yeah,
for Beat on the Brat, but I just don't care for it. And the first time, no, it wasn't the first time. It was the second time I saw Weird Al on a Vanity tour. That was the cover song that he did, and I remember looking at my brother and going, "No," because I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear something else.
I'm not a fan of punk.
I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, that's one. I guess maybe when I looked at the track listing, I should have looked closer because that definitely would have been a stinker for me.
Yeah. I just don't care for it. And the other one I have is the Sir Isaac Newton versus Bill Nye epic rap battles of history song. And it's funny because we did a whole episode of the show about that song, and I really appreciate Weird Al's contribution to that. But like, it's just not my jam. Not something I'd listen to on purpose. And also, I don't like the idea of Weird Al being in a rap battle.
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with me.
It's just in battle. Just the word battle.
It's just like, no.
Right on. Well, those make sense. I totally get where you're coming from on both of those. And actually, you ended up giving me a reason to say, oh, yeah, that one's the one I could do without. When we move on to open discussion, I definitely have a couple of points that I want to point out. I'll just start with my first one and then see what else you have to share. But one of the things is the complaints I've seen in the Weird Al fan base about this is that it wasn't released separately.
Yeah.
Like it was only released as part of the Squeeze Box. And here's my thing. And, your fan base sort of knows me. I'm a big Weird Al fan. I've been a Weird Al fan since I was since I bought in 3D when I was a kid. As big of a Weird Al fan as I am, this does not sell on its own.
No, it absolutely doesn't. I agree with you.
So the thinking of, I can't believe he put in Weird Al did not put this in the box set to make you buy more box sets. That box set was very much meant for people like me who have been like a lifelong fan who at the time had the disposable income to just be like, I'm going to buy this because I'm a big, huge Weird Al fan. That's who that box set was made for. That box set was not made in order to get a bunch of Weird Al fans to spend $300 just to sell them one CD. It was like, hey, we know diehards are going to buy this box set, and also here's another reason to buy it. That's why that CD was put in there, or the LP was put in there. The only way I could see this getting released outside of that for fans is to just throw it up on YouTube like he's done with other projects, like to just throw the audio up on YouTube, which I'm sure it all is anyways. Right. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that I've been surprised to see within the Weird Al community, that people say that, because Weird Al fans tend to be pretty happy people, like, and not like, there's a lot of fan bases out there. I know, because we do a show about all the other fan bases out there who look for something to complain about. Weird Al fans generally aren't that type of fan. And I've been very surprised to see over the years that people almost in accusatory tone posted like, oh, it wasn't released for the real fans. Like, no, it was.
But it was.
It was. Though. Like, it
was.
Really,
like,
really it was.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find it.
Yeah. So that's one point I wanted to point out. What else do you have to say on the record?
I mean, like, first of all, I'm happy to. What's a good way to put this? I am happy as far as like looking at the box set as a whole, right? I am happier to have all of the studio released albums on vinyl than I am to have the contents of Medium Rarities.
No, yeah,
like
I agree.
it's a fun novelty to have. And I think, like, just like you said, it's a good bonus to have go along with this. But again, it's put together in chronological order. There are some greatest hits packages that are put together like in a more nuanced kind of like, let's make this make sense as an album kind of way. And this is just like, here's a bunch of stuff Weird Al did out of context. And some of the things that are thrown on it absolutely need context. Like, hey, we're the monks needs context.
Yeah.
There are so many things that need context that, putting it out in this format as a standalone doesn't make sense.
Well, and that's funny because the other point that I was going to make on open discussion on this is there's a lot of rare stuff here, and there was stuff I didn't even know about. But then when I heard it, I was like, what? But what is this though? Because I didn't know about where it came from, or like you said, the context, And that the hey, we're the monks is definitely one of them. Where I was like, well, wait, what now?
Yeah,
like there's a joke here that I'm not in on.
Right.
So again, this to me is what it's supposed to be, which is a bonus for buying this box set, right? And I don't think there's any world where it would have been successful as a single release.
No, absolutely not.
So what we do when we go through the rest of our questions here on this record, I'm sorry, do you have more open points?
No, I mean, the only really other point that I had would be that I don't think it would hurt anyone, especially at this point, since the box set is out of print, to put Medium Rarities out on streaming. I don't think that would hurt anyone now.
There's probably more to it than we know about. Yeah, because I know, like, for example, Danny Harrison worked alongside Weird Al regarding George Harrison's writing of Taxman, right? But then Namco was also involved because they own the rights to the Miss Pac-Man thing, right? And that's just one track. So who knows how that was negotiated?
Yeah, and a lot of the other ones are for TV shows and things like that. So
Right.
I'm sure there's a bunch of rights that are go along
There
with it.
may have very well been okay, you can use this, but only because it's a limited thing.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And so, like, to anybody who's like mad that it wasn't like released for the real fans, quote unquote, you know,
Just take a step back and think about
all the
again,
stuff.
Like, there's a lot more going on with I assure you that your record labels are one thing. Your favorite artists are not sitting back trying to figure out how they can keep their music from you. I assure you. You know, Weird Al is not doing that.
Oh, of anybody, he's the one not doing it.
with
Weird
this-
Al wants you to hear what he's doing.
With this particular collection, there's a lot more going on with rights and whatnot than most people probably even realize. So we go through a couple of different questions as we get toward the end of our reviews. First of all is, would you buy this album? I haven't, I did, and I would again. Again, this is a weird case because it comes with the Squeeze box set, right? And me personally, the big vinyl collector that I was at the time that this came out, and the big, huge Weird Al fan that I was my whole life, I had everything up through UHF on vinyl already. And I literally just kept sitting around being like, I wish somebody would just do one box set with everything in it that he ever did, including all the ones that were never on vinyl in the first place. And then they did.
Yeah, like you manifested it.
Yeah, but then on top of that, they were like, oh, and also here in one place is all this other Weird Al stuff, right? So like again, if they did sales for this again, I would absolutely tell anybody. You know, well, let me put it this way. Here's the biggest endorsement I can give the record, or as far as the box set and if I would buy it or not, is I used to have a vinyl collection that was just over 1,500 records and single LP pressings that were worth upwards of $1,000. When I sold off the entire collection, I kept 2 pieces, and Squeeze Box was one of them.
Yep.
So that should be my endorsement of would I buy this record.
I think that's probably the best endorsement that could possibly.
I could have easily picked up 10, 20 times what I paid for that box set on a resale market and didn't.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. Would you buy this record if you were in a position like, and again, I guess it all goes with the box set, right? But if they re-upped tomorrow, would you buy the whole set?
Yeah, this is a weird question for this particular instance, but let me tackle it the best way that I can. Would I buy this as a standalone thing? Probably not. Would I buy this as if I had the means to purchase the box set? Probably. Would I encourage people to, listen to this stuff, like look up the track list and find things on it to listen to? Yes, because there's some fun Weird Al nuggets on there that you would enjoy. But like it doesn't work well enough like as a compilation album, just kind of a sit down, listen to, forward to end.
We're going to get into that in a little bit with the next 2 questions because the first of the last 2 questions is, would you recommend this to people? And before I ask you, my answer is kind of, and I'll explain why when I rate the album. So having said that, would you recommend this to, anyone?
Oh, well.
Or is there a certain fan or?
I mean, I'm not trying to borrow your answer, but kind of,
yeah.
Because yes, there is a certain fan. Like this is not something for a casual Weird Al fan.
Right.
This is something for a Weird Al fan who hasn't heard this yet.
Right.
So, and I know a lot of those.
Right.
So, yes.
Yeah. Right. Well, okay. So here's the thing. So when we get to the end of our album reviews, we always do a rating 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, 1 being the absolute worst that we can rate an album. So for me, I gave this album a 7. The reason why I gave this album a 7 is because, yes, there's stuff on there that I think even a casual Weird Al fan should hear and love, like Headline News or Pac-Man. But then I also think that there's things that a casual Weird Al fan would be like, dude, why would you tell me to listen to the album with an instrumental version of Dare to Be Stupid? You know what I mean?
Because you can sit down and sing along with it.
No,
but yes, I know that's not a casual Weird Al fan.
A casual fan doesn't
That
know
is not a casual Weird Al fan activity.
And then on top of that, I bet hardcore fans, there's probably stuff that was in the vaults that hardcore fans were expecting to be on this that weren't. That didn't end up on it.
That is very true.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's why
it's still Billy Joel to me. Where is that?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And again, probably rights and all this other stuff, but still, fan expectation was probably that this was going to have deeper cuts on it than it did, right?
That's true.
So that's for me why it's a 7. Like it's not bad by any means. There's stuff I love on it, but it's far from perfect for a compilation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So what would you rate the record?
I'm giving it an 8 because I can't give anything done by Weird Al anything lower than an 8.
That's fair.
Because of reasons. I agree with everything that you've said. It's just so hard, because I wish there was stuff on this that it's still Billy Joel to me, like any of the weird food medleys that he used to do live, stuff like that.
Or even the version of the alternative polka with Buddy Holly.
With Buddy Holly in it, yeah. That would have been very, very cool for us. Like a lot of the stuff that's on there is from IPs that I was like, oh yeah, Weird Al was part of that, and I've heard him okay, that's neat, but a lot of the later stuff, especially on the second half of the second side, is not groundbreaking Weird Al stuff,
right?
But it's good.
Yeah.
I love. I didn't put it on my Jammy Jams of it, but I love the rethinking of Happy Birthday.
Yeah.
I think that's lovely because that's a nice song off of his debut album. But yeah, there's stuff about this that I would change, but I guarantee that there's reasons why. Right. Exactly like you said, that what I really wanted out of this wasn't what it was. But yeah.
So the last thing I'm going to do before we hand the reins back over to the Beard Al podcast is now I have a long history of manifesting Weird Al things into reality. You know this about me personally. I literally, not 2 weeks before Squeezebox became a thing, sat and told my friends exactly what I wanted in a Weird Al box set, and then it got announced 2 weeks later.
And I'm going to time out you very quickly before you say that because of the fact that you're saying this on the Beard Al podcast wavelength. On this show, we manifested Weird the Al Yankovic Story, the movie.
Right. And then after that, I sat on your show and manifested the Eat It video in 4K.
You did.
Before that was released, sat on your show and said how all the hoops they'd have to jump through in order to make Eat It come out in 4K. And then what happened 2 weeks later?
It came out in 4K.
It came out in 4K.
So
I would like to present you now with the next thing that I would like manifested in the Weird Al, in the Weird Al world. And I think that this is something that easily could happen. And I would love for it to come about. I would like a live album or live albums from either of the Vanity tours with all of the rare songs that all of us barely ever got to hear.
I would probably poop myself. You'd need to get a tarp.
So I would like to manifest that into being. That is the next thing that I would like to have happen. Don't need a physical release of it. If you want to put it on vinyl, fine. I'll buy every version of it on vinyl that you release. But if you just put it on streaming, all of us would love to hear all of those songs from the Vanity tour. Not every single song that was performed, but maybe a best of what Weird Al feels is the best from
smattering
from each tour.
I second that. I feel that. I want that very much. Now that you've said, if that doesn't happen now, I'm going to be sad.
Well, let's wait and see what happens. I have a track. I have a track record. So.
Yes, you have a track record, and the show has a track record. So let's see what happens.
What we always do when we end our show is we tell you what's coming up next week. If you liked this episode, then you can go and listen to the Infectious Groove podcast, and you'll hear a whole bunch more of that. If you didn't like this show, boy, have I got good news for you.
The show is over.
Yeah, the show is over, and next week the show will return to the regular Beard Al format. But what we always say on the Infectious Groove podcast whenever we finish an episode is, without music, life would be a mistake. And with that, I will hand it back to Lauren, and we will all now travel together through time and space back to the Weird Al podcast.
The Beard Al podcast.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yes, that is what you meant. Yeah, because next week is our 3-year re-rank Alapalooza anniversary special, and John and I are surprisingly on track for that episode. So for those of you, sorry Dayton, for those of you that like sidetracks, this one doesn't have many, but we're still freaking funny.
Right. Great.
That's it. So we can say bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.